very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Charlotte Benedict for the Newsfirst team.
And I'm Piruni Karunaratna. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
No confidence motion against the Speaker, defeated in Parliament.
ඒ අනුව වැඩි ඡන්ද 42ක සංඛ්‍යාවකින් යෝජනාව පරාජයට පත් වී ඇති බව මෙම සභාවට දැන්වීමට කැමැත්තෙමි.
Speaker says a conspiracy was in play in the proposal made for him to take control of the country during the Aragalaya.
ඔවුන් අතර සිටි සමහර අයගේ අරමුණ වූයේ උද්ගත වැටි ගැටලුව සමනය කිරීම හෝ රට ආරක්ෂා කිරීම නෝ මාහරහා නීති විරෝධී රජයක් පිහිටුවා අප රට ලිබියාවක් හෝ ඇෆ්ගනිස්තානයක් පත් කිරීමේ කූට උපායයි. එහි ප්‍රතිඵලය වූයේ මෙරට ජනාධිපති දුරේ හිස් වූ අවස්ථාවේ ජනාධිපතිවරු සඳහා මට ආරාධනා ලැබීමයි.
IMF and Sri Lanka reached staff-level agreement for second review. IMF urges need to restructure external debt soon. President says debt restructuring is anticipated to conclude by June and July. Presidential election and then general election. Verite Research claims 90% say the economic conditions in the country were getting worse. 4 people, including Duminda Nagamua, who were arrested in Fort, remanded, while 24 others granted bail.
Starting off with your top story tonight, in a decisive vote, the motion of no confidence against the Speaker was defeated in Parliament today. A majority of 42 votes ensured that the Speaker retains his position.
The motion of no confidence against the Speaker received 75 votes in favour. Whole 117 votes were cast against it. The Samagi Jana Balavege, Jatika Jana Balavege, Ilange Tamil Arasu Katchi or ITAC, MPs Uday Gaman Pilla, Professor G.L. Piris, among other independent MPs in the opposition, voted in favour of the motion of no confidence against the Speaker. Leader of the Jatika Jana Balavege, Anura Kumara Dissanayaka, as well as Sri Lanka Podujana Peramana MP Nama Rajapaksha, did not attend today's Parliament session as they were overseas. National Congress MP A.L.M. Athaula, MP WDJ Seneviratna, Sri Lanka Freedom Party MP Angajan Ramanathan, as well as MP Varivel Suresh voted against the motion of no confidence against the Speaker. MPs Jagat Samaravikrama, Priyankara Jayaratna and Nimal Lanza voted against the motion. In response to concerns raised by opposition members regarding the Speaker's conduct and decisions during the passage of the online safety bill, a motion of no confidence was brought forward. After 3 days of intense debate, the parliamentary voting took place this afternoon. Meanwhile, the Speaker made a revelation in Parliament in a special statement at the end of the vote.
The fact that many of those who contacted me during the Aragalaya and pressured me to violate the constitution and form a government under my leadership have signed this motion of no confidence baffles me. I am extremely sad to say that many powerful forces were among those who pressurized me to violate the constitution and establish a government during the Aragalaya. The objective among some of them was not to stabilize the country, but to establish an illegal government under my leadership and to make Sri Lanka a Libya or an Afghanistan. This resulted in invitations being extended to me to take up the presidency when the seat became vacant. But even then, I resisted both local as well as foreign pressure and worked according to my conscience to protect the supreme law of our country, the Constitution. When they couldn't change my stance, some of them acted violently, surrounded my house and threatened my life. Among them were popular Buddhist monks as well as other religious leaders, and I am shocked by this to this date. Amidst these threats, then President Gotabaya Rajapaksa contacted me and inquired on how power can be transferred to me. At the final party leaders meeting on the 13th of July, there were threats in the area surrounding the presidential palace, and groups were getting very close to destroying the parliamentary complex as well. The parliamentarians were removed from the premises immediately. However, I remained in this building until the very end. I was able to stop this and prevent a great destruction from taking place.
The approval process for the appointment of the Inspector General of Police within the Constitutional Council sparked intense debate and widespread discussion. The Constitutional Council comprises 10 members. Currently, 9 members have been appointed, leaving one position vacant. The Speaker previously disclosed that during a Constitutional Council meeting, he, alongside Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena, Sagara Karyawasam and Nimal Siripala de Silva, endorsed the appointment of Deshabandhu Thennakoon. He claimed Sajith Premadasa, representing the opposition, opposed this appointment and that Kabir Hashim did not attend the meeting physically. However, the Speaker noted that the opposition leader informed him that Kabir Hashim expressed his dissent via Zoom. He noted that 2 civil society representatives on the Constitutional Council, Dr. Pratap Ramanujanam and Dr. Dinesha Samararatna, abstained from expressing their opinion on the Inspector General of Police. Dr. Dilkushi Anula Vijayasundara, another civil society representative, was absent from the meeting. Speaker Mahinda Pabewardena noted that 4 members of the Constitutional Council approved the appointment, while 2 members opposed it. During the no-confidence motion debate, further revelations emerged. The opposition raised concerns about the letter sent by the Speaker to the President on the 26th of February, which conveyed the Constitutional Council's decision.
After the meeting, the Speaker spoke to the President and informed him that 4 were in favour, 2 were against and 2 abstained. He asked what he should do. You know, Ranil, he asked him not to do anything about it and asked him to send it to him in writing. So he sent it in writing. If you consider the 2 abstained votes as votes against, I will use my decisive vote in favour. Is this how a speaker should act?
Opening today's debate, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa criticised the Speaker's actions by quoting the meeting minutes of the Constitutional Council.
I never expected to read the minutes of the Constitutional Council within this House. What has the General Secretary and officials of the Constitutional Council recorded as the truth? 4 votes in favour of the IGP's appointments, 2 votes against and 2 abstained. It also states that according to 41E4 of the Constitution, it was neither approved nor rejected. Even a preschool student will understand that this letter was written with the intention of violating the Constitution. Does the Speaker have the ability to read the minds of those who abstained and decide if those votes were against to reach such a decision? Abstaining isn't mentioned in the Constitution within the Parliament chambers. Parliament traditions state that abstaining to vote is a rejected vote.
තමන් ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරනවා yes කියලා හා no කියලා ඡන්දයක් දෙන්න. දෙන්නකො බලන්න උත්තරේ. පුළුවන්ද? Tripartite system of government එක සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම විනාශ කිරීමේ කුමන්ත්‍රණේ මහමොලකරු හැටියට අපිට කියන්න සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ කතානායකව. අපි එක් පැමිණි එකඟතාවයන් ව්‍යවස්ථාදායක සභාවක් හැටියට
The Constitutional Council reached an agreement to refrain from publicising the policies the Council will follow in any manner, even within Parliament, to ensure trust. This agreement was violated when the no-confidence motion was compiled. We could have rejected the motion based on that clause.
මේ විශ්වාසභංග යෝජනාව ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරන්න තිබුණා. නමුත් එතුමාට අමතක වෙලා පොලිස් ප්‍රතිපත් කිරීමේදී
He may have forgotten it. It was the Speaker that initially revealed what happened within the Constitutional Council with regard to the IGP's appointment. The Speaker wrote a letter to the President stating that only 4 votes were cast in favour and asking him what he should do.
මම මොකද්ද මේකට කරන්න කියලා. ගත්ත තීරණය තමයි කතානායකතුමා යව්වේ. මම 4ක් ඡන්දේ දුන්නා පත් කරන්න. ඒ ගැන ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැනේ. එතුමා බොරුවල් ලියලා නැහැනේ. කතානායකතුමා ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ උපදෙසිල්ලුවා මොකද්ද කරන්න කියලා. එතුමා ප්‍රසිද්ධ කෙරුවා. ඒක පත්තරේම ලියව වැටුණා. ව්‍යවස්ථාදායක මණ්ඩලයේ විසින්ම.
I'd like to direct your attention towards the Gazette on the regulations named by the Constitutional Council itself on the 31st of December 2023. Does it mean that they can abstain from voting for a proposal? They cannot do so under any circumstance. They can only vote in favour or against. If they have done so, it is to create an anarchy state. In reality, it was the 2 Constitutional Council members who abstained from voting that violated the Constitution.
නිර්පාක්ෂික කියන ස්වාධීන කියන සමාජිකයෝ දෙන්න.
ඒතර ව්‍යවස්ථාවේ පැහැදිලිවම ලියලා තියෙනවා.
The Constitution clearly states how a decisive vote can be cast within the Constitutional Council. I am surprised that the former Justice Minister and the current Foreign Minister is trying to interpret it. It cannot be interpreted. It is written in the Constitution and can be only interpreted by the Supreme Court. It cannot be interpreted by Parliament.
අර්ථකථනය කරන්න බෑ.
නමුත් පොලිස්පති හැටියට පත් කරන්න
What approval was sought to appoint the Inspector General of Police? 4 votes were in favour and 4 votes were against. If the Speaker had not voted in favour, the other 4 would still vote against. What I think is that it was a conspiracy, that 2 were going to abstain. They thought that if 2 abstain from voting, the Speaker will not be able to use his vote. I believe this was all a conspiracy. When the Gazette they themselves released was absolutely clear, and these 2 members still behaved in this manner. We must see if they should be kept in Parliament any further.
Meanwhile, 3 government members posed a challenge to the opposition during the no-confidence motion debates in Parliament held yesterday and today.
Minister Tiran Alas was telling me that usually in the case of a no-confidence motion, it is brought against the subject minister. If the no-confidence motion had been brought against Minister Tiran Alas, neither the opposition leader nor parties of the opposition would have taken the initiative to do so. I remember parliamentarian Lalit Ellavala said a few months ago that a no-confidence motion would be brought against Minister Tiran Alas. However, there was no mention about that thereafter. This proves that if such a no-confidence motion was brought, it would clearly show the division within the opposition. The online safety bill was presented by Minister Tiran Alas. In that case, the no-confidence motion should be brought against him. I challenge the opposition leader to bring a no-confidence motion against Minister Tiran Alas. He will not do it. What will happen is that the opposition members would also vote against it. Therefore, it becomes quite clear that this is a plan to tarnish the reputation of the country's speaker and disrupt his duties. This no-confidence motion should not be brought against the speaker. This concerns the Minister of Public Security, Tiran Alas. However, neither the opposition leader nor Andrakumara Dissanayake will dare to bring a no-confidence motion against him. The opposition leader greets him good morning every day, talks to him before having breakfast, and wishes him good night every day. The opposition leader seeks the approval of Minister Tiran Alas before doing anything. We are certain that opposition leader Sajith Premadasa will not bring a no-confidence motion against Minister Tiran Alas. He would not dare to.
Parliamentarian and President's Counsel M.A. Sumanthiran has formally requested that the fundamental rights application, which previously challenged the Speaker's conduct during the passage of the online safety bill, was subsequently dismissed, be re-examined in the presence of a new Supreme Court bench.
On February 29th, the Supreme Court dismissed a petition filed by M.A. Sumanthiran without granting permission for a hearing. The decision followed initial objections raised by the Attorney General. The Attorney General underscored that the relevant act, having been duly passed by the Parliament, cannot be subject to legal challenge before the court. Furthermore, he added that as an act of the legislature, the court lacks the authority to issue orders regarding such matters. As a result, the court rejected the petition without further deliberation. However, Member of Parliament and President's Counsel M.A. Sumanthiran expressed concern reproducing the application, believes that the petition was dismissed without due consideration of crucial facts. In light of this, Sumanthiran appealed for a fresh opportunity and argued the court to accept the petition and allow it to be reconsidered before a different bench.
The Symphony Orchestra of Sri Lanka proudly presents SOSL Concert, a musical masterpiece conducted by Kiko Kobayashi with the world premiere of Lalnath De Silva's first cello concert with soloist Dushanti Pereira, One Supé's Light Calvary Overture and Brahms' First Symphony. 23rd of March, 7 p.m. onwards at the Lionel Wendt Theatre. Tickets available now. Electronic media sponsors: Yes 101, Legends 966, Newsfirst and TV1.
The TV every Saturday and Sunday at 8:30 p.m.
Welcome back to the news. Now, the IMF team reached a staff-level agreement with the Sri Lankan authorities on the second review, and it is now expected to be approved by the IMF's executive board.
We have reached a staff-level agreement on the economic policies to conclude the second review of the 4-year EFF-supported program. I would like to highlight that the staff-level agreement is subject to the approval of IMF management and the IMF Executive Board in the period ahead. Upon completion of the Executive Board review, Sri Lanka would have access to about $330 million, bringing the total IMF financial support under the program, under the arrangement, to approximately $1 billion.
The IMF mission also noted that it is critical to reach debt agreements with the creditors.
Sri Lanka's agreements in principle with the Official Creditor Committee and Export-Import Bank of China on debt treatments consistent with program parameters were important milestones, putting Sri Lanka's debt on the path towards sustainability. The critical next steps are to finalize the agreements with the official creditors and reach agreements in principle with the main external private creditors in line with program parameters in a timely manner. This should help restore Sri Lanka's debt sustainability over the medium term. We conduct these financing assurances that give us assurance that all the relevant stakeholders are doing what is needed to ensure that the program of Sri Lanka is financed. And so in the case of the multilateral institutions, that means we assure ourselves that the financing that they have indicated they would make available to Sri Lanka will be available in the period ahead. So we seek these assurances for the next 12 months and seek a degree of comfort for the period of the program beyond that. So it's a routine exercise, and we repeat this at each review. So with respect to the creditors, I would not necessarily agree that there is a delay in the agreements with the official creditors. So agreement in principle was reached between Sri Lanka and the official creditors, both the Official Creditor Committee and also the China Exim Bank late last year. It is true that it is now important that these agreements in principle need to be converted into an actual agreement, or in the case of the OCC, into a memorandum of understanding. But it is fairly common for that process to take some time, and so accordingly we have not received a question in that regard. But we would urge that this process move along expeditiously, because it seals what has been agreed and is therefore a very important part of restoring debt sustainability.
The International Monetary Fund said that taxes are linked to the supply of essential services.
We understand that Sri Lanka is in a significant crisis. Real incomes have declined substantially. In dollar terms, Sri Lanka lost about a sixth of its economic activity. GDP went down 15% in dollar terms in 2023 relative to 22. So certainly the people of Sri Lanka feel that hardship every day. So this tax burden, this population has experienced this tax burden before, and it is needed in order to fund the essential services that the government is providing. It is providing common goods for everybody, and if everybody wants to continue enjoying these common goods, then everybody has to make commensurate contributions.
That the crisis has hit the poor and the vulnerable the most, and as a result, in the program, we also have a spending floor on social safety nets. That means that the government has to spend a minimum amount to protect the poor and the vulnerable from the economic crisis, and again, to help them recover so they can find their feet again. Yeah.
During an address in Kegol last afternoon, President Ranil Wickremesinghe shared his insights on the critical debt restructuring program and the forthcoming elections.
The country is to reach the status of a debt-paying country. We have turned this around in 1 year. If we continued like before for a few more years, we would have to suffer more. It was widely accepted that Sri Lanka is a country that achieved an economic turnaround in a short time frame. We need to engage in negotiations with the creditor nations. One segment made of Europe and Japan are meeting, and that is the Paris Club. India is not included in that group. The local staff and the International Monetary Fund are anticipating to reach a staff-level agreement this weekend after concluding their discussions. Concurrently, discussions with China are ongoing and discussions with private creditors are also underway. I aim to complete all of these tasks by June and July. It's crucial to finish these activities before the elections. We need to complete this before the presidential election, which will be followed by the parliamentary election. The rupee will also be strengthened. When I took over, the dollar was valued at 370 rupees, and today it has dropped to around 300 rupees, and it's expected to reach 280 rupees by June.
What is the current status of Sri Lanka's debt repayment obligations? Sri Lanka's debt is owed to 3 distinct entities. They are official bilateral creditors, the external commercial creditors, and other creditors. The official bilateral creditors are China Exim Bank, the Committee of Official Creditors, and various other bilateral creditors. External commercial creditors encompass foreign entities holding international sovereign bonds, domestic creditors, and the China Development Bank. Other creditors include loans taken by government banks and government enterprises. Given the cessation of debt payments, it is crucial to initiate restructuring and repayment strategies promptly. What is the current status regarding the official bilateral creditors? On the 11th of October 2023, the Chinese Exim Bank confirmed its acceptance of the terms regarding the $4.2 billion loan. It is anticipated that the debt restructuring process will be concluded by the first quarter of this year, following the finalization of the agreement. On the 9th of May 2023, the Official Creditors Committee was established with India, Japan and France serving as co-chairs. The Official Creditors Committee announced a consensus on debt restructuring totaling $5.9 billion on the 29th of October last year. In line with this, there are current plans to formalize memorandums of understandings and establish bilateral agreements within the first quarter of this year. Other bilateral creditors such as Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iran and Pakistan confirmed in January of this year their intention to adhere to the debt restructuring framework outlined by the Official Creditors Committee. What is the current status of external commercial credit? The holders of international sovereign bonds have recently presented a proposal which the government believes diverges from the objectives outlined by the International Monetary Fund. The government is concerned that implementing this proposal could precipitate another foreign exchange crisis and potentially disrupt agreements with other external creditors. Consequently, the government is engaging with the International Monetary Fund to formulate a new agreement with international sovereign bond holders. This process is anticipated to culminate in an agreement by the conclusion of the first quarter of this year, with the government aiming for implementation by the second quarter. Similarly, negotiations are underway to finalize an agreement with local creditors who have invested in sovereign bonds, with the government targeting agreement before the close of the first quarter and implementation in the second quarter. Additionally, discussions to settle international sovereign bonds acquired through the China Development Bank are slated to conclude within the first quarter of this year. Meanwhile, the Sri Lankan rupee has exhibited resilience, appreciating by more than 6% against the US dollar since the start of the year. Presently, the selling price of $1 stands at 308 rupees and 80 cents, compared to 328 rupees and 77 cents at the beginning of the year, marking a decrease of approximately 20 rupees in the cost to purchase a dollar. Economic analysts attribute this strengthening of the rupee to an influx of dollars into the country, driven in part by a surge in tourism earnings, which have increased by 118% in the first 2 months of this year compared to the same period last year. Additionally, remittances from Sri Lankans working abroad have risen by 14% during the same period. Furthermore, Sri Lanka continues to bolster its foreign reserves through international loans. Just this week, the country secured approval for $100 million from the Asian Development Bank and 1,600 million Japanese yen. As a result of these developments, Sri Lanka's foreign reserves have swelled to $4.5 billion.
If the price of the money is lower, of course, people will get more money and demand for more dollars because they are going to buy dollars by spending rupees. At the moment, people do not have rupees in their hand for few reasons. One is the taxation has been affected, so their purchasing power has come down. On the other side, since they do not have money, they do not demand for goods and services. So as a result, they have cut down their consumption. So when they have cut down their consumption, of course, the demand for dollars is less. That's one side. The other side is, that's the demand side. On the supply side, the supply of the dollars is mainly dependent on export, also the remittances and from the tourism industry earnings. So basically, tourism is doing fairly well. So as a result, we have constant dollar inflows, so as the remittances. Exports are slightly down compared to last year. So as a result, regardless of the changes, the dollar supply remains as it is and the demand is low. So as a result, the price comes down, and that's how it was coming down from 320 range to about 300 and even to an extent even below the 300 level in the last few days. So that's what has happened on the exchange rate side. And what we need to look at is how much or what is the growth rate of the economy. And even last year also we had a negative growth rate, but last quarter we had a positive growth. But we are also not repaying our debt at the moment, and we are planning to pay it from 2027 onwards or with the negotiations with our creditors.
Bloomberg News reported on Thursday that global investors and Sri Lankan officials expect to start negotiations aimed at restructuring $12 billion in defaulted global bonds next week. A steering committee comprising of bondholders will begin talks as they weigh a proposal from the government to rework the overseas debt that has been in default since 2022. The aim is to expedite a deal, particularly since Sri Lanka is due to hold presidential elections later this year.
Inspector General of Police Deshabandhu Tennakone asserts that the paramount factor impacting the lives of police officers is the pervasive influence of drugs and organized crime syndicates. Furthermore, the Inspector General of Police emphasized that the Yuktiya operation has been intensified to curtail and manage this situation. The complexities of modern police work have increased due to public demonstrations advocating for various causes. However, I recognize that the primary risk to officers' lives stem from drug trafficking and organized crime. To address this critical issue, I have implemented a more robust Yuktiya operation. My unwavering commitment lies in protecting the memory of fallen officers and ensuring a safe environment for all current and future officers. Ultimately, my goal is to create a society free of crime and violence, allowing the police to serve the public without fear.
The
Inspector General of Police delivered these remarks during his participation in the 160th Police Hero celebration at the Bambalapitiya Police Field Force headquarters. The event honored police heroes and included a wreath-laying ceremony at the Police Heroes Memorial. Retired police chiefs, families of deceased officers, disabled officers and serving officers were all in attendance. The Inspector General of Police also presented them with monetary awards.
Propaganda Secretary of the Frontline Socialist Party, Duminda Nagamua, and 4 others who were arrested during the protest held in Colombo yesterday were remanded until the 27th of March today. They were remanded upon an order issued by the Colombo Fort Magistrate.
31 people who were arrested during a protest of the Jana Aragala Vyapara or the People's Struggle Movement in Fort yesterday were produced before the Fort Magistrates Court today. Magistrate Thilina Gamage ordered the remanding of Propaganda Secretary of the Frontline Socialist Party, Duminda Nagamua, former convener of the Inter-University Students' Federation, Lahiru Weerasekara, former convener of the Inter-University Bhikkhu Federation, Venerable Rattarawe Jinaratana Thero and Nayana Ranjani until the 27th of March. Meanwhile, 5 more suspects were remanded until tomorrow and will be presented for an identification parade thereafter. Police informed the court that 2 suspects who were injured and hospitalized during the protest are currently receiving treatment at the Colombo National Hospital. The magistrate inspected the 2 suspects this evening and released them on bail. Accordingly, 24 suspects were released on bail today, with a 100,000 rupee surety for each suspect. Meanwhile, opinions were expressed at a press briefing in Colombo today with regard to the arrests and police attack that took place during the protest held in Fort.
These photographs show how the police exercised minimum force to control the protest. There are 4 or 5 police officers here. They took off the shirt of this man and lifted him up with his arms and legs when arresting him. This is how another person was arrested. They pushed him to the ground, assaulted him and laid him on the ground before arresting him. We have more photographs of how the police carried away more of our people by their arms and legs. This is purely inhumane and cowardly.
Bulletin research claims that the approval rating of the government fell from 9% in October 2023 to 7% in February 2024. This is according to the latest round of the Gallup-style Mood of the Nation poll of Bulletin Research. The survey showed that only 9% rated the current economic conditions as either excellent or good, which is a drop from 16% in October 2023. 90% thought that the economic conditions in the country were getting worse, whereas in October 2023, only 66% had this negative view.
Up next is Crime Watch.
An underworld criminal was killed in a shootout with the police special task force in Ganemula last night. The police said that the deceased was involved in a crime with the connivance of Dinesh Vasantha, who is currently hiding in Dubai, and the deceased suspect was a close associate of Ganemula Sanjeeva. The police also said that he was identified as the gunman in the shooting of Kudu Anju in Dadugamua in Jaila on the 9th of March. The shooting took place at around 11 p.m. last night in a 2-storied rented house located in Sumedamawatha in Ganemula. Upon a tip received that the suspect was hiding in the house, officers of the police special task force surrounded the location. The suspect had opened fire at the STF, and in response the STF had opened fire on the suspect. Police said the suspect had succumbed to his injuries upon being admitted to the Ragama hospital. Police said that the deceased individual, identified as 28-year-old Shehana Sankar, had fled the army and joined underworld gangs. An STF officer who had sustained injuries during the shootout is currently receiving treatment at the Ragama hospital.
New Zealand Foreign Minister Winston Peters has announced 4 new diplomatic appointments, including the new High Commissioner to Sri Lanka.
New Zealand Foreign Minister Winston Peters has announced David Pine as the new High Commissioner to Sri Lanka. David Pine is currently New Zealand's High Commissioner to India and Bangladesh and Ambassador Designate to Nepal. David Pine, the current High Commissioner in New Delhi since July 2020, will relocate to Colombo as the new High Commissioner to Sri Lanka. He was New Zealand's High Commissioner to Malaysia and Brunei Darussalam from March 2011 until taking a break from the Foreign Service in December 2014.
Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science conducted their first conference of the school's Science Day program 2024 yesterday in Pallekele, Kandy.
The conference saw a participation of 250 students from the Kandy educational zone. Sessions were conducted by former professor of the Colombo University, Jayantha Valihinda, professor of chemistry of University of Colombo, Ashani Tilakaratna, senior lecturer of chemistry of the University of Colombo, Prasadini Silva, and a group of more teachers from Kandy Education Zone.
The weekly silent protest at the Liberty Circle took place today as well.
Civil activists gathered at the Liberty Circle in Colombo to express their dismay over the lack of attention to pressing issues in the country.
I'm here today to stand with the people against the unrighteousness of a government that it's 5 years since the Easter Sunday tragedy occurred, but we find that there is no action taken against those who were responsible. They keep passing the ball to each other, and now it's just swept under the carpet. What we require is action. We see that many people who have been maimed for life are suffering today, but we wonder what the president, who once said that he will even get Scotland Yard to investigate, now has forgotten about the Easter Sunday attack. It's 5 years, and we do hope that action will be taken by the government, a so-called responsible government and its ministers.
Activists held placards to express their dismay to the current state of affairs.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight.
Thank you for watching.
Good night.